Hello friends, welcome to Dr. Jaggis Academy. In today's lecture, I will discuss about the pharmacology of nitrates. So in this video, I will discuss about the nitrates, what are those, actually the classification, uses, their mechanism of action, the tolerance that we see with the nitrates, their side effects and contraindications. So first of all, I will discuss what is nitrate and what is nitrite. Actually, when we say nitrates, these are the esters of nitric acid. So that means this kind of a structure. Okay. But when we say nitrite, these are the esters of nitrous acid. This kind of a structure. Okay. But we will discuss about the nitrates. So we also use a term organic nitrates. So I will discuss in this lecture that these nitrates are very useful agents in the pharmacology. So if we have to summarize the actions of these nitrate in one line, what is that line? That line is that they produce smooth muscle relaxation. Okay? And because of that relaxation action, they dilate blood vessels, vasorelaxation. But you have to remember that they mainly dilate the veins at the therapeutic doses. So these are venodilators. But you give a higher doses of nitrates, then they dilate arteries also. But in normal conditions, normal doses, they dilate the veins. So how we can classify the nitrates? Depending upon the onset of action and on the duration of action. So short-acting nitrates, we are having the example of glyceryl trinitrate, GTN, which is also called as nitroglycerin, very important drug in this category. Then we are having long-acting, like isosorbide dinitrate, isosorbide mononitrate. This mononitrate is a metabolite of dinitrate. Erythritol tetranitrate and pentaerythritol tetranitrates. So these are some of the important nitrates we will discuss subsequently. Now this very important drug, glyceryl trinitrate. This is actually a volatile liquid, and how it is made into a tablet, actually that volatile liquid is absorbed into the inert matrix and it becomes a non-explosive. Otherwise, if you see these nitrates, they are explosives, dynamites. Okay, but it is absorbed over the liquid, absorbed over the solid to make it a tablet form. So in these tablets, when they are formed, they are enclosed in a tightly closed glass containers to prevent the evaporation, so that the drug remains inside the tablet. And most common route of administration of glyceryl trinitrate is the sublingual route. When you take a tablet, you crush or you allow the tablet to dissolve in the buccal mucosa. There are some other routes also by which we can give the GTN, glyceryl trinitrate. One I have told sublingual. It can also be given by a transdermal route. Okay. Then the very important characteristic feature is the very fast onset of action. Within 2 minutes you can see the effect. But the duration is very short. Within 10 to 30 minutes the action disappears. How? These act as vasodilators. So I will discuss in 3 steps. Nitrates, they are not acting directly. They are acting indirectly. So how indirectly? First of all, nitrates, they release nitric oxide. They liberate nitric oxide. How they liberate? We don't know the clear mechanism. But perhaps there is an important role of reductate, you can say nitrate reductase present in the liver. So we can say hepatic glutathione organic nitrate reductase. It helps in converting nitrate into nitric oxide. Some other enzyme like aldehyde dehydrogenase. This enzyme is also involved in forming nitric oxide from the nitrates. But whatever the mechanism is, we get nitric oxide. Then what happens? This nitric oxide binds with the thiols, that is SH groups, to form the nitrosothiol. And this nitrosothiol is biologically active and it produces the vasodilation. Now, how nitrosothiol produces vasodilation, I will discuss in the next slide. So, I am just summarizing. Nitrates release nitric oxide, it combines with thiol groups to form nitrosothiol. Now, nitrosothiol, it activates intracellular mechanisms. What are those? It activates an enzyme called as guanylyl cyclase. And once this enzyme is activated, this increase in formation of CGMP, sorry, this is AMP, I have written wrongly, this is CGMP because it is a guanylyl cyclase. CGMP activation leads to, this CGMP leads to activation of protein kinase G, PKG. This PKG is basically a CGMP dependent protein kinase. That means this kinase is activated in the presence of CGMP. Again I am telling this is CGMP, not CEMP. Another action of the CGMP is that it decreases the calcium level. So now what will happen if this PKG is activated? Very important reaction is that it activates phosphatase enzyme, phosphatase. And what is the full name? Myosin light chain phosphatase. So if you understand the name, you will come to know phosphatase when it will remove the phosphate group on these things. So that means it will produce dephosphorylation of myosin light chain. And you know, the substrates which are phosphorylated, they are activated. If they are dephosphorylated, they become inactive. So that means once the myosin light chain is dephosphorylated, it is not in an active state. So because it is not in an inactive state, it doesn't interact with the active. As a result, there is no contraction and there is a vasorelaxation. This is how nitrosothiol produces the vasorelaxation. Moreover, this CGMP, which reduces calcium, this reduction in calcium is also responsible for the vasorelaxation. So key points are nitrosothiol, activation of protein kinase G, activation of phosphatase, dephosphorylation and vasorelaxation. Now what are the therapeutic uses of these nitrates? They are very useful in the exertional angina or the variant angina. They are also useful in the unstable angina, which is also called as acute coronary syndrome. They can be useful in the myocardial infarction, congestive heart failure, biliary colic, esophageal spasm and cyanide poisoning. I will discuss all these one by one. Exertional angina. So, as I told, glyceryl trinitrate by sublingual method is preferred to terminate the acute attack of angina. And action appear within 3 minutes. 3 minutes I am telling the maximum. And what is the mechanism? These nitrates, they decrease the myocardial oxygen demand. Second, they redistribute the blood supply to the ischemic regions. These 2 points I will discuss in the subsequent slides. So remember, in the angina, they decrease myocardial oxygen demand and they supply the blood to the ischemic region, and that is just not a supply, this is a redistribution. You will come to know in the subsequent. First of all, I will discuss this thing, myocardial demand. Nitrates decrease myocardial oxygen demand. How? Nitrates, as I told, they preferentially dilate veins. If the veins are dilated, you know veins are also called as capacitance vessels. They have the capacity to store the blood. So there is a peripheral pooling. That means blood is accumulated in the veins. Where, what are those veins? The veins of the lower limb. That means of the legs. So blood is stored in the veins of the legs. They have the large capacity to store the blood because of the vasodilation. If the blood is stored in the veins, so the less blood will be going to the heart. So that is, we say, there is a decrease in the venous return. The amount of blood going from veins to the heart is reduced. Return is reduced. And return is also called as preload is reduced. If amount of blood coming to the heart is reduced, So that means you can see ultimately the volume of the ventricles is reduced because now they are not filled to that extent. Okay, so we say there is a end diastolic ventricular volume is reduced. If the volume is reduced, obviously pressure will be reduced because they are directly linked. So there is a decrease in the end diastolic ventricular pressure because they are not filled with the blood because blood has stored in the veins. So now if the pressure is not there, so ventricles are not distended. Obviously if they are not filled, how they will be distended? So distension will be reduced. If distension is reduced, wall tension is reduced. If wall tension is reduced, obviously demand is reduced. And these kind of the things, they are according to this relationship which is called as Laplace relationship. That means reduce the pressure, reduce the distension, reduce the wall tension, reduce the myocardial oxygen demand. So very important, nitrates reduce the demand by reducing the preload, by reducing the end diastolic ventricular pressure. Second very important thing. Now listen to this very carefully. So what I am using a word, redistribution of blood supply to ischemic region. That means if you nitrates are giving, they are selectively increasing the blood supply to the ischemic region, not to the non-ischemic region. That is redistribution. So they favorably redistribute blood to the ischemic zone. Blood is preferentially diverted from non-ischemic to the ischemic region and helps in reducing the myocardial ischemia. How this happens, I will discuss in the next slide. Now, what is the mechanism of redistribution? So, I just want to show with the help of a diagram. Let's say this is the normal coronary artery status. This is the artery where the stenosis has taken place, narrowing has taken place. Because of this stenosis, this area will be ischemic region. Okay, but these are non-stenotic. So they are normal, so this is non-ischemic region. Okay, third thing. This is a epicardial coronary artery which is a very large in size because this is ultimately supplying blood to these regions. This is epicardial coronary arteries. Okay, so now what happens actually? Once this hypoxia is there, this stenosis produces the hypoxia. So this leads to dilation of these arteries. Reason is because hypoxia is a very powerful vasodilator and that phenomenon is called as autoregulation. So they are dilated. Okay, but maximally they can dilate, till they can dilate, the symptoms are not there. But when they are maximally dilated, they cannot increase the blood to a further extent, then the ischemic symptoms happen. But what I am telling is, the difference is, these blood vessels are dilated, these are less dilated. So what will happen? So no dilation in the non-ischemic region. Now you have given the nitrates. What is the site of action of these nitrate? Nitrates, the site of action is this epicardial arteries. That means nitrates leads to the dilation of this region. So that means blood will be increased in this region. So once blood is increased in this region, this blood will preferentially go to this portion because they are already they are dilated. They are less dilated. Okay, so that means the preferential flow of the blood to the ischemic region take place because you are dilating this portion, epicardial portion. So the same thing I will discuss in the form of the writing, the whole thing. So what is the mechanism of redistribution in the writing form? So coronary arteries are dilated in the ischemic region because of autoregulation. Ischemia is a stimulus for the vasodilation. But coronary arteries remain normal in the non-ischemic region. Okay, nitrates do not alter this autoregulation. There is no effect of nitrate on this autoregulation. Then, when you give nitrate, they dilate large-sized epicardial coronary arteries upstream of the stenosis, above the stenosis. So that is why there is an increased blood flow to the in the epicardial artery is diverted to the ischemic region. So this is what I want to explain, that they reduce the demand, they increase the supply by the redistribution phenomena. Now, this was exertional angina. In the variant angina, they are also useful in the variant angina. And what is the mechanism? Mechanism is basically the vasodilation of the coronary artery. That is the major mechanism. But if you compare nitrates and calcium channel blockers are more useful in the variant angina. And for this one, you can see the pharmacology of calcium channel blockers in the description section, which is given in this video. Now, acute coronary syndrome, which is also called as unstable angina. Nitrates decrease oxygen demand, increase the blood supply, they reduce the symptom, but they are not used alone. They are used in combination with other drugs. What are other drugs? We give beta blocker, we give antiplatelet agents. Example, low dose aspirin, we give heparin, which is an anticoagulant. So I repeat, in the acute coronary syndrome, in unstable angina, we give nitrates, beta blocker, antiplatelet and heparin. Okay. So in the myocardial infarction, glyceryl trinitrate, they are used in the form of intravenous form, not sublingual, intravenous. They reduce the demand. So if demand is reduced, so they help in reducing the extent of infarction. Helps in reducing the extent. That helps in reducing. So demand is reduced. What will happen? Chest pain will be reduced, pulmonary congestion will be reduced, and necrosis will be reduced. Extension of necrosis will be reduced. Dead area will be reduced. But if you see the overall effect, whether there is a beneficial effect of nitrates alone on the mortality, that is not very clear. They reduce the symptom, no doubt, but overall the survival is increased or not, that is not very clear. But you have to take one precaution. That means systolic blood pressure of the patient should be more than 90, because systolic has to be 120, but if the patient is of hypotension, low blood pressure, don't give nitrates, because nitrates further reduce the blood pressure. This is the one thing. They are very useful in the congestive heart failure, but how? If you give nitrates, they dilate the veins and they decrease the preload, as I told previously. But in the congestive heart failure, we are not using nitrate alone. We are using in combination with another drug which is called as hydralazine. Reason? Because hydralazine dilates the arteries. It dilates veins, it dilates arteries. So combination is very useful. So it decreases the preload, it decreases the afterload. So that is why we use the combination of these two. So what is the combination? Isosorbide dinitrate and hydralazine. In fact, if you use the combination, only then it is beneficial in reducing the mortality. So what is the status? If you see the pharmacology of ACE inhibitors that is given in the description section in this video, you will come to know that ACE inhibitors or ARB are the drug of choice in CHF. But if you are not able to use ACE inhibitors or ARB because of the contraindications, then we can use the combination of nitrate and hydralazine. And second thing, we can use the glyceryl trinitrate also in the intravenous form when the person is in a very severe condition, severe decompensated state of CHF. Then we can also use biliary colic, something related to the biliary tract of colic mean pain. So there is a severe pain in the abdomen. Why? Because there is a spasm of the cystic duct connecting the gallbladder. Gallbladder has a duct which is called a cystic duct. So that duct is closed and it produces the pain. Why this duct can be closed? Because of the presence of the gallstone or because of some opioids like morphine. So if you try to give normal painkillers, there is not much of the effect. You have to give some drug which can produce the smooth muscle relaxation, like these nitrates. They relax smooth muscles. Esophageal spasm. There is a abnormal contraction in the esophagus, which is very painful. Plus, moreover, because of this spasm, what is happening is that food doesn't pass from the mouth, from esophagus into the stomach. Difficulty in passing. It is a painful thing. So if you give smooth muscle relaxant like glyceryl trinitrate sublingually, it relaxes the sphincter, it relaxes the muscle, and helps in the passage of the food in the downward direction. It also relieves the pain. So it facilitates the feeding. Cyanide poisoning. Let's say the person has consumed cyanide. So cyanide is very toxic because it inhibits cytochrome and oxidative enzymes. But if you give nitrite, here we are giving sodium nitrite. If it is given, it combines with hemoglobin and converts hemoglobin into the methemoglobin. Now this methemoglobin has a very high affinity for the cyanide. So as a result, this cyanide and methemoglobin combination is called as cyanomethemoglobin. This combination is formed. Now you have to give additional agent, that is sodium thiosulfate. This sodium thiosulfate will combine with this one to again reform methemoglobin, and you get a sodium thiocyanate. So what you have done is that you have converted this cyanide into the thiocyanate with the help of the sodium nitrite and thiosulfate, and ultimately this thiocyanate is excreted in the urine. So now very important phenomenon to the nitrate is the tolerance. That means you are giving the nitrate, their effect will disappear within a short period of time, rapid tolerance. And this mechanism is perhaps because if you remember the previous slide, I told they are dependent upon the presence of thiol groups. Thiol groups are depleted, so their action is not there. So how we can overcome the tolerance? You give a gap period. That means nitrate free period of about 8 to 12 hours. Then these sulfhydryl groups are regenerated of our own, and then nitrates start producing their action. So that means whenever you give nitrate, you have to make sure that a drug-free period of 8 to 12 hours is there in the body before, so that nitrates can produce their action. Coming down to the side effects of the nitrates. This postural hypotension, decrease in the blood pressure when the person changes the posture, particularly when from the laying into the standing position. Then headache, very common. Pulsating headache, flushing, increased blood to the face, palpitations, and dizziness. All these things are because of the weakness ultimately. All these are because of the vasodilation. Okay? And these can be overcome if you say person to lay down. These things can be reduced. So in the upcoming video, I will discuss more detail about the angina pectoris and the different drugs which can be used for the treatment of angina pectoris. Thank you.